Estonia is geographically Northern Europe. Politically, often wrongly placed as Eastern Europe.
Ah, wrongly.
Wrongly. And economically, it's the bridge between East and West. So that's where Estonia is.
CTA Video 1, Take 3.
We're on a mission to sit down with 100 leaders on this platform. The platform is cleaning the airwaves. And when we say 100 leaders, we're talking about people who they're leading. I'm talking about 10 and more, or people who are authorities within the field that they operate. So excited about the journey that we've been. A big thank you to each and every single one of you who's been watching. A big thank you to all the leaders who've sat here. Today's CTA, let me say this one is a must watch. I thank you for all of you who are tuning in from all the different countries. Don't worry, this one is going to be of great value to you. Today's CTA is a must watch. Why? Because it's going to expand your mind. Why? Because it's going to change your thinking. Why? Because it's going to empower you with the tools, with the understanding. You're going to be able to see that which you think is crazy and actually see people and countries and a country that operates with this different renewed mind. So I'm excited about what today's CTA is going to do for your mind. I'm excited about all of you who are going to watch this CTA and get solutions for your businesses, for your institutions, for your countries, for whatever problems that it is that you may be going through. I'm excited because today's CTA, I promise you, doesn't matter where you're watching this from the world, you're going to get a lot of value. Our guest is an amazing friend, and I want to just paint a little bit of context before I introduce her. So I have been in this digital space for 25 years. My name is Richard A. Stanjao, for those of you who are watching this for the very first time. And along this journey, as a pioneer in various different fields, it gets lonely and you wonder whether these things that you're doing and whether you're doing them is right, or are you just thinking from the clouds. And along the journey, I would then go online and look for people who are doing the similar things. And in 2017, I bumped into a guy called Casey Neistat. Actually, 2014, I bumped into Casey Neistat from the content creation perspective. 2017, I bumped into Gary V. And most importantly, in late 2017, early 2018, I bumped into none other than our guest today. She is the Honorable Consulate from Estonia to Kenya. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, put your hands together. And Aizo, and Jeff, and Meg, for none other than Honorable Kadri Humal-Ayal.
Welcome.
Honorable Kadri?
Yes.
First and foremost, is it okay if I can call you Kadri for today?
But no, you always call me Kadri, so let's not even try and beat around the bush there.
Kadri, man, you're not know. No, but the reason why I say that, I say because there's a journey that people take before the titles are put on. And this conversation and this journey that we're going to be having on CTA, on the Playhouse today, is going to unveil all these different titles from your life. Now, today's CTA is special. It is extremely special. Why? Because myself and a couple of other people, about 34 people from Kenya and also South Africa, have arrived afresh from the land of Estonia. And let me tell you, that is an amazing country. Kadri, thank you so much for enabling and opening up doors so that myself and all of these other people could get the opportunity to go to Estonia. Because what Estonia has done for my mind, I can't even begin to explain. So this is not just going to be a story about your life, which is what I call the Playhouse. You also came for class in session with Martha Karua, so you understand what class in session is. This is also going to be a class in session on Estonia, because under Estonia is not just the digital revival that this country is doing. Estonia, in my world, and not even in my world, Estonia is the most digitally advanced nation on earth. A country with 1.3 million people. It is the most, let me say that again. Estonia is the most digitally advanced nation on the planet. So you can imagine the value that we're about to extract, especially with where we're going. But before that, hi, Kadri.
Hi, Richard.
Welcome to CTA.
Thank you. So happy to be here.
Yes. We didn't see this happening, huh?
Well, I keep watching the CTAs and I keep admiring the work that you do.
Yes.
And so here we are.
You've also been on CTA. What people don't know is that you've been here. This is actually your third time.
True. We've had conversations.
We've had conversations. Before it was known as this thing called CTA. Kadri came to my office and voted. My office was at the time was in Nairobi, Kenya. She came and voted with an ID or a card that I hope you carried today that you will show us.
Yeah, it's with me, yes.
We'll talk about it, huh?
Sure.
Okay, I'm talking a lot. This is just a conversation that we're going to have about your life, and intertwined will be all the different lessons and learnings that Estonia has to offer the world. So I'm excited about this. Also, wonderful for you, there's a lot of footage that you're going to see because I carried a camera with myself, and the camera sometimes being even just a mobile phone. So we will intertwine some of this footage so that you can actually see it's not just her talking, it's actually happening, as we like to say in Kenya, kwa ground. Kadri, I've spoken for like 5 minutes. Let's start this. So I come to this platform with one question, and the question is, when and where were you born?
Oh, that's very simple. So I was born in Estonia, in a city called Tartu. And at that point in time, Estonia was occupied by the Soviet Union. So I was born under the Soviet state that Estonia was under at that time. And I was born in 1971.
1971.
Yes.
Okay, so Estonia. Where is Estonia?
So Estonia, and see, this is how I would very often describe where Estonia is. So Estonia is geographically Northern Europe. Politically, often wrongly placed as Eastern Europe.
Wrongly.
Wrongly. And economically, it's the bridge between East and West. So that's where Estonia is.
What is the capital city of Estonia?
So Estonia's capital city is Tallinn.
What's up, peeps? So we are officially here. We're in the capital city of Estonia. It goes by the name of Tallinn. It's been a long journey. We left Nairobi around midnight yesterday, went straight all the way to Frankfurt in Germany. Got into Germany, had a 6-hour layover, and then left Estonia. From Germany to Estonia about 2.5 hours. Landed safe and sound, and now we are officially in. We've met Honorable Kadri Humal-Ayal, the Honorable Consulate from Estonia to Kenya.
So, Karibu Nairobi. Is it Nairobi or is it Tallinn? Karibu Tallinn. So, Karibu Tallinn. Habari ya baridi?
Simbaya.
Simbaya.
It's a bit hot.
Ni moto. Si baridi? Baridi moto. Okay. So Estonia's capital city is Tallinn. And if now the description I've given and the Google Maps you might have just right now turned to is not helping, it is basically right below Scandinavia. We are all sharing the Baltic Sea. So Estonia is one of the Baltic countries, and Estonia does have a very infamous neighbor, Russia. And so we are the border between Russia and European Union. We are the border between Russia and NATO, and so that's where we are.
Okay, I need to throw this in quickly. We were in Estonia for 10 days. And in those 10 days, we did a lot of B2B meetings. We got to enter a lot of government institutions. We also got to travel to Finland and also come back to Estonia. Every single Estonia we met or meetings that we'd go to, even in Finland, one of the things that we constantly had is, we have this neighbor of ours. We have this neighbor of ours. We have this neighbor of ours. And this time you're talking about Russia. there is definitely something, and the word they use, we are defending ourselves. We are constantly defending ourselves between Estonia and Russia. You said in 1971, when you were born, you were under Soviet Union. Let's continue from that. And you're born now in Tartu. So you're not from the capital city, Tallinn. You're from?
Actually, well, I need to just define that actually I was born in Tallinn, but I'm not from Tallinn.
Okay.
and I was born in Tallinn because my grandmother lived in Tallinn, and because I have an older brother, he's a year and 3 months older than me, and my mother needed the support of my grandmother, the time when she needed to go to the hospital. And so she just came to Tallinn for that. and yeah, so it was a beautiful winter day. It was December, and there was storm.
December when?
17th.
Oh, okay.
And so there was a lot of, actually there was wind that was pushing trash cans down the streets, and so I was born on a stormy winter night, and actually I'm probably, as many people say, the way you are born is sort of like it gives you who you are. So I was born on a winter stormy night, and I did not have time to wait until my mother got to the delivery room. So I was in a hurry to get into this world.
I love it. So how many siblings are you in your family?
So I have an older brother and a younger sister. So
Okay.
I'm the second born child. And as you know, again, those who consider the hierarchies in a family, I'm of course the one who left the country.
Which we'll come to. I love
Yes.
the pace that we go with here. So now you are originally then from Tartu. Again, I had the privilege of going to Tartu. It's about a 2-hour drive, 2.5-hour drive. Tell us about Tartu and where you're born.
So Tartu itself is a university town. Tartu has a population of about 100,000 people.
Right now.
It's sort of like has had that 100,000 from the time I can remember. There's actually a beautiful statue, it's a combination of digits and a little baby sitting on top of one of them that signified when Tartu reached the population of 100,000.
Oh.
And so it is a university town. It has the oldest university in Estonia. It was established in 1632. And besides having the main Tartu University, it also has the University of Life Sciences. It has the Aviation College. It has also the Academy for the Disciplined Forces. And so really, Tartu's population, number one, has everybody who's associated with university. So a lot of professors, lecturers, scientists, etc. And then it has a lot of young people.
Okay. So because of the education factor, were your parents involved in that? Is that why you are in Tartu?
No, well, yes, in the sense that, yes, my father is a scientist. And so, yes, from time to time, he was lecturing at the university. And it just so happens that actually our house was right across the road from the main university building. And so when I was a small baby, my mother would put me in a pram in front of the main university so that she can see from the window when I'm asleep or if I've woken up. And, and very often the university professors and any students who are passing would just, gently shake the pram to put me back to sleep. So I mean, the university was my playground.
Tell me about your parents.
Yes, so my mother studied linguistics. And so she is very much humanitarian. So her interests are languages, her interests are history, things to do with the human being. And my father studied both medicine and physics, and so his focus was combining the human aspect with physics, basically, inventing things that would improve the human health, and inventing gadgets for those purposes.
Wow. So this is 1971. So
Yes.
Is this in your lineage? Is this in your history? I mean, you talked about the university being how old?
It was established in 1632.
I can't think of Kenyan history that far. Not that it doesn't exist, it's just that it wasn't archived, documented. By the time there's a university in 1632, from your lineage, is this education factor something you can trace back?
So indeed, number one, yes, Estonia has a very well established education, both right now, but it goes back, several hundred years. Like, my father, like I said, an inventor.
Is an inventor. And we're coming to that because that alone, my father is an inventor. That's something we need to talk. Is he still inventing?
Yes, he is. Yes.
And how old is he right now?
So he's let me think, he's 84. He's 84. And so when I was just in Estonia together with the delegation, I was, just having a quick catch up with him. And so at this point in time, because I think a lot of the world is, of course, grappling with issues of, how to generate energy. And,
green energy, especially cleanly.
Well, yes, how to generate energy that is, safe for the environment.
Yes.
And so while in Kenya, of course, solar panels are very, very efficient for that purpose. In Estonia, where, we don't have so much sun, and there is a lot of controversy around the efficiency of wind power. So my father is looking at how to create more efficiencies for generation of power using wind. And so basically, he was just telling me, look, I don't have a choice. I have to invent. And so because that's who he is.
Okay. I'm trying to not lose track because there's so many questions coming to this. So let's go back. Is this a historical thing,
sure.
generational?
Yeah, and so my grandfather, my father's father, he was an academician. And so he was an academician means that he's not just a professor at the university. He was teaching mathematics at Tallinn Technical University. And academician means that he is more than a professor. He is a member of the Estonian Academy, which recognizes outstanding scientists across all fields.
Okay.
And so he was an academician.
Okay.
Then jumping to my grandmother. So my grandmother studied history in university, but her father...
Your grandmother's father?
Yeah, my grandmother's father was part of establishing one of the first Estonian language newspapers in Estonia.
Okay.
And then looking at some of that lineage as well, my great uncle, I think I should say, was one of the first psychologists in Estonia. He was working end of the 1800s to the early 1900s. And so it's kind of like it really goes back. And when you say that it's difficult to think back in Kenya, to the 1600s, because of the work of my aunt specifically, who is herself a statistician and a recognized thought leader. Through her interest in our family tree, I can actually take my family tree all the way to, I think it's about 1680s.
Wow.
all the way to, that's the husband, that's the wife. They had these, 13 children, and they're, all the way back to where I am.
Part of the reason why I started this channel is for archiving purposes.
Yes.
So that when I'm gone and when generations come after, they're able to understand how we got to where it is through hearing people's stories. So people's stories are archiving is so important to the fact that even on this channel, we've started something called CTA Posterity, where we never put it out for people to see, but we sit down with people's parents, interview them, and give a generation, we give the parents the content so that their lineage will always have that. When I'm hearing you being able to talk about that far, I'm in awe. But on top of that, I can then imagine, did they expect you to also enter academics? This is who we are as the Humals, right?
Right, and so I think number one, I'm quite lucky in the sense that I think many families in Estonia, but I would say maybe more, I can speak of my family, there wasn't that thing of you must now study this or you must become this, or we all had the ability to choose.
Okay.
And so number one, I that being in Soviet Union, of course, it was.
Explain that to somebody who may not understand that. When you say you were under Soviet Union.
Right. So under Soviet Union, what that means is that, number one, your choices are limited.
So the country called Russia was then before USSR.
Right. So, okay, so let me just
break it back,
let me
yes.
sort of like go maybe 3-4 steps further back.
Yes.
And so at the time when you visited Estonia, you heard about Estonian history, how Estonia is kind of like that favorite pet that everybody wants to have.
And now on the right, you'll see our representational square. This is called Freedom Square. And there is also a cross-shaped monument of crystal that is called Liberty Cross. And here we are going to now celebrate in a week our Independence Day, anniversary of Estonian Republic, 24th of February.
So Estonia has been part of the Swedish kingdom, the Danish kingdom, the Germans, the Russian Empire, etc., etc. Through hundreds and hundreds of years, Estonia did not have its own self-governance.
Multi-colonialism.
Multi-colonialism.
So, as we know the British, you guys have a history of this.
We have a history of it. And so, but throughout all those hundreds and hundreds of years, Estonians are stubborn. And Estonians don't give up. And Estonians, we really cherish our culture, our language. And so Estonian language has survived all those occupations. And to me, when I first came to Kenya, let me just do a quick jump there in this context. To me, it was really strange that as Kenyans, you don't feel oppressed that you continue to speak English. Because for us as Estonians, our identity is tied to us making sure that we speak our language.
Wow.
And making sure that our culture comes through, all the way from, learning our history. And the history that we learn, it feels as real as it was happening now, in the sense that, so for example, the time when Estonians fought against Crusaders.
Crusaders?
Crusaders, yes. the people who came from Europe trying to convert Estonians from the faith and beliefs that we had into Christianity.
Yes, yes, yes.
And they came with force.
Already 1219, right after Danish crusaders conquered Estonia, and then later it was built grander and grander. But once Christianity reached us, it was Catholicism during those first centuries. And then later we were converted to a Lutheran country in 1500s and have been ever since. Today it's around 30% of locals that consider themselves religious. So most of us aren't. I would say most of us probably are spiritual. All of us do believe in something, but whether it's ourselves or God or something else, it's very individual matter. And before Christianity reached us, we were considered pagans by the rest of the Christian world, but we did have our own form of religion. It's called animism. So we were worshipping gods and spirits who lived in the nature, like trees and rocks and waterways. We used to gather to the sacred groves or to the forest to carry out our religious rituals. So to cut another long story short, we can say we were tree huggers before we became Christian. And tree hugging in general is very popular among Estonians. Go to a national park or bog or forest on a weekend and it's more crowded than Old Town. So that is our thing and typical for Estonia.
And Estonians built fortresses. We have our, because we did not have here we're talking, in 9th, 8th century. And when we had to fight to keep what we believe, what we considered, because Estonians are animists by our belief.
Explain to somebody what that means.
So that means that animism is the type of belief where you believe that there are some spirits around you that protect you, that we went into forests and we had some of the forests that were considered holy.
Hence the tree huggers element.
Yes. And so you would have particular huge stones in the forest that would naturally have a dent in it, and it was believed that those were there for you to give offerings to the spirits of the forest. And so you would put some grains or you would put some milk and offer that.
Yes.
And so in our language, the earth is the Mother Earth. And so that is what we believed in. And then we had all kinds of fascinating aspects, like we had wolves that would turn into women, or women that would turn into wolves. Yes. And so when you think of the coastal people in Kenya who, the genies, it's the cat and the woman always, right? And so we had those beliefs, and so Christianity was brought with force to eliminate that.
I get it. Okay. And you call them the Crusaders, or the first ones to bring this?
Yes, the Crusaders.
Okay.
Yes.
So the reason why we're having this conversation is all leading up to understand now Soviet Union.
Right.
Yes.
And so through all those years, number one, we kept our language. Number two, we kept our culture. Number three, we made sure that education in Estonia is available in Estonian language.
Wow.
All the way from primary school to university. In order to make sure that that is available, it's necessary to develop the language to be able to describe everything, to the metaphysics, to all aspects of microbiology,
wow.
to be able to have those words. And so Estonian language is...
And what is the name of Estonian language?
Eesti keel.
So even in English we call it Estonian language.
Yes.
But in Estonian it's?
Eesti keel.
You learn something every day.
And so it's kind of like part of even our current day culture.
Yes.
We make sure that we have an Estonian word for all the new words that are created. And so we do not simply say, well, if that word is used in English and the rest of the world uses
I get it.
we actually create our own Estonian word for it so that it makes sense for us.
And now here on the right is our national opera and ballet called Estonia, like the country. Although Estonia is our country's name in English, in Estonian language we call it differently. We call it Eesti, E-E-S-T-I. You'll see a lot of that name while wandering around Estonia or Tallinn. So the National Opera and Ballet on our right.
Okay. Oh, and I'm going to touch on the Kenyan diaspora because if you want, and we got to meet the Kenyan diaspora, we got to have conversations with them. And part of the questions we asked them, so there are some who are in school, there are some who are working. So, and part of working and getting your visa is given a time period, if you want extension of that visa, has to be learning the language. I now understand that. It comes from a place of heritage and personal love for your own culture and language.
And by the threat that us being only about 1 million people who speak the language.
Oh.
And we are committed to keep the language alive. While many would say, it's a lost battle.
Yo.
We make sure that the language stays alive. And so coming to the Soviet Union era.
Before even you get there,
yes.
just, I will take you slow because I understand some of these things because of how much interaction I've had with you, but I want to take the audience on the journey.
Yes.
Name the countries that Estonia has been what we would then call colonized by. Basically, people who occupied and said, you are no longer Estonia, you are under us. Name some of them.
Yeah, so Sweden was one of them.
Sweden?
Yeah, Swedish kingdom. Basically, the time, for example, when the university was established in 1632, we were under the Swedish kingdom.
Okay.
We also had the Danish kingdom at some point owning Estonia. We had then, of course, the Germans were the owners of Estonian major mansions and lands at a point in time. Then we were, at some point, we were part of the Russian Empire. And then we gained independence in 1918, after the First World War. Mm-hmm. And Estonia was, a happy, beautiful, prosperous country until in 1939, Molotov-Ribbentrop Pact placed Estonia under the Soviet control.
Wow.
And that Molotov-Ribbentrop Pact, Estonia was not part of it. That was signed by others in Europe, and the secret clauses of it were now the division. Estonia was one of those that were now placed under Soviet occupation. But of course, Second World War followed, and so during Second World War, actually Estonia was at some point fighting on the German side, at some point fighting on the Soviet side, and in the end of the Second World War, the peace agreement then placed Estonia under Soviet Union.
Oh my God. So the world is going on and they're deciding for you guys what it is.
And what they are trying to do right now for Ukraine, yes.
Oh, and it's so, I'm so happy you've brought this up because this is going to be such a good class in session. There's so much understanding you're going to get. I now understand why, for you guys, there's this neighbor who you're constantly talking about, but you're talking about it not from attack, you're talking about it from defend. You're trying to defend everything about your country because history has shown that you are just being tossed around to different countries. Everybody wants a piece of you and is not letting Estonia be Estonia.
Yes, and I think you very correctly pointed to one of the common talking points where there are those who believe that NATO and NATO members are there to attack Russia. NATO and NATO members have never attacked Russia, have nowhere in its policies to attack Russia, while Russia is the one who always infringes on other countries' land and freedom. And like right now, when we were in Finland with the delegation, Finland lost land to Russia in the end of Second World War. Estonia has ongoing border dispute all the way from the time we regained our independence in 1991 over some areas where, as far as the historic records go, the land belongs to Estonia, but Russia has not released it back to Estonia in the end of the occupation that ended in 1991. Same way, Russia took land from Ukraine in 2014 when Ukraine lost Crimea. The same way, the wars in Georgia, in Chechnya, in all these regions where Russia simply says, this is ours, and we have the strength and power to take it, and there is nobody who is going to stop us.
Wow. That's a bully. It's a big bully. I mean, Kadri, let me just say, this is painting such context. So you're being born, and because of Russia and this German thing, World War II ends, Estonia is put under Soviet Union, Russia. And you are born thus in 71 you're being told you're Estonian, but you're being ruled by Russia.
Yes.
So at this time when you're born, or in that period until 1991 or however,
1991, yeah.
Is there a president? Is there an Estonian president? Is there an Estonian prime minister? Or is the rulership now a Russian governor or whatever it may be?
So the fact that it was called Soviet Socialist Republics. And the Soviet Socialist Republics meant that they are all under the Secretary General, whoever is the one in power in Moscow. But each one of the states under the Soviet Union had its own, call it, like the governor.
Yes.
So each state had its own. There were elections held. Where, there's only one candidate you're voting for. And you're showing up.
Sounds a bit too familiar.
For that one candidate, you see? Yeah. And so, I'm really happy the way you react to it, which, I'm sure at some point we'll come to, which is, there were so many parallels that the Soviet Estonia and Kenya had.
Can I interject here a bit?
Sure.
The one thing that I said when I went to Estonia, because I'm used to the British side. Yeah. I'm used to maybe even the French side, because this Estonian side is sort of hidden and the narrative is never told. The one thing that was so clear, Estonia and Kenya were so similar, more similar than we are even with the British and everybody else. Okay, but go on.
Yes, and so, I will just interject onto that was the fact that when I first came to Kenya, many people asked me, did you have a culture shock? I didn't, because things were so similar. But yeah, so growing up, living under Soviet Union meant that, number one, the choices that a human being could make were limited by the fact that it had to be in line with the Soviet socialist state views.
Wow.
Number two, there was very little freedom of expression because if you say something which is not in line, there were major repercussions.
Including death?
Oh, including death. But you see, it was by far easier to take people who were either leaders, who were thought leaders, who were strong in one way or another, into concentration camps in Siberia
Yeah.
because things needed to be built up there. And why would you kill a human being if you can force them
His labor.
into labor? Yes. So it was by far easier to do that than
And did they begin to bring in their language? Because language is...
Right. And so this is where, yes. So in Soviet Estonia, number one, yes, you had to learn Russian language. But many of the other countries that were occupied by Soviet Union also were forced to either leave out their language entirely
Wow.
or use Russian Cyrillic letters to write their language.
Wow.
And Estonia resisted that. Estonia said, no, we are going to continue teaching in Estonian language. That's number one. Number two, we already have our letters. We don't need your Cyrillic letters that do not actually describe how the sounds occur in Estonian language. And so Estonia stood very, very firm on that. And so, but because we were forced to learn Russian language, many of us, including myself, miserably failed in it, just as a point. And so this is where, in Kenya, when families consider the ability to speak really good English as a good thing, in Estonia, being able to speak very good Russian was not considered a good thing.
You're shouting, Kadri, you're shouting. Don't stop shouting.
Yeah.
You know what you're saying. And actually, to be honest, it was only later on in my life. And I interviewed on this seat Patricia Ithao. And Patricia Ithao says speaking English almost meant, at that time, almost meant you got raised up.
Yeah.
And that was brainwashing us without us even knowing the effects of colonialism. In fact, our parents or her parents are the ones who were like, no. The aim is for you to learn English because English is proper and, you're a gentleman. And language is such a powerful thing. I never looked at it from this element of the power that a language has in maintaining culture, unity, and history.
And you see, in Estonia, for example, nowadays particularly, people call the Estonian language as, like the secret whisper, because there are only 1 million people in this world who speak it.
Wow.
And so, like...
Aita? Aita?
Yeah, that's...
1,000,001.
And so, for this reason, like my children, even though they grew up in Kenya, they speak very good Estonian because it is the ability to be in a world where you speak and nobody understands you.
Wow.
You're able to say anything about any of the situations, and nobody is able to know what it is that you're talking about. It brings a particular power that those who only speak English can never have in this world.
You know what? This is a lot. We're taking a break. This is a good one. This one is a good one. We'll be back in 2 minutes.
Okay.
Unfortunately, yeah.
What was the question in
The
residency?
permanent residency, how easy it is to
Go
get it.
first.
I think since most of us, I don't know about other people, but I'm trying to get the permanent residency, or at least switch from the work permit, the work residency to the permanent residency. For the most part, it's much easier to get the permanent residency in Estonia than other countries, in the sense that what you have to do is kind of integrate into the society, which is you have to speak the language fluently and at least be in the country.
You have to speak the language fluently.
B1, B1 level, yes, Estonian. And for me, it's kind of understandable in the sense that you're living in the country, so there's no reason to not learn the language. Before, I think you could get the residency extended after school without having to learn the language or anything, but I think it's reasonable to just learn the language if you're going to stay here and get a permanent residency. For the US and the UK, obviously we speak English, so we don't have to have that barrier. The only barrier is like not being able to travel back home. So here the only barrier per se is just learning the language, and then after that I'm sure most of us are working and everything, so that kind of adds a plus to getting the residency. So as long as you have the language requirements, you're already happily contributing to society in the form of taxes and just being a good member of society, then they don't have a reason to say, well, you can't get the permanent residency because you've been traveling out and about. So in that sense, it's kind of hard, but also kind of easy.
So like what percentage of Estonian can you talk?
Can't much. I think I'm just sitting between A1 and A2. Yeah.
So you can?
Not really. Like I can understand the basics, the very basic level of Estonian.
How long have you been here?
4 years.
4?
Yeah.
So you're Estonia what? Number 20?
No, I
Or 10. I think
10.
she's number
Number 10. I guess.
You are number 5.
Yeah, it's number 5.
E5.
Was there
E5.
like a year when the most Kenyans came here? Like, was there like an inflection point?
I think so. 2021, 2022,
Yeah.
we did see.
What happened?
I think it's wise.
There was like wise hired a lot of people, like a lot of Kenyans to come in, and then also I think lots of Kenyans. I came through study, but there was a lot of Kenyans who were hired through wise, and then also a lot of Kenyans that came for study as well.